Hello, and welcome to a very special pre-draft show presented to you by VikingFans.com. This show is a collaboration of somebody with the smarts, Geoff Nichols, and Thor's Hammer Gang. Let's say hello to Geoff Nichols first. Hey, Geoff, how you doing?
It's doing great, Bob. Coming out from here in Minneapolis, home of Vikings territory. Excited to be back with the gang.
Excellent. Glad you're here with us. Georgia Vike, how you doing?
I'm phenomenal, Bob. Thanks.
Nice. OBM, how you doing out in the desert?
I am doing splendid. It was 82 degrees and not snowing today in Arizona, so beautiful thing.
Nice. And sent out Minnesota to Mike Olson. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Bob. You know, we're trying out some new stuff, and I don't know if we're going to have some technical difficulties along the way. It might be a little bumpy ride, but if you're interested in following on live, I believe we should be live casting at our VikFans live page over on VikFans.com. You can go to VikFans.com and look on our nav menu. There's a link for VikFans Live. Click on that, and you should be able to interact with us via chat. So give us a try.
Yeah, so type a question, and we'll see it, and we'll respond to it. Before we get into the draft, let's talk about what's happened lately with the Vikings organization. We all knew we weren't going to re-sign Adrian Peterson anyway, but he signed with the Saints the other day, who happens to be our season opening game at the Vault. Who thinks that's going to be a fun game? OBM, your thoughts?
Well, I think that's going to be a fantastic game. It kicks off the season, and, you know, who would have predicted that Adrian Peterson's first game, not in a purple jersey, he comes back home and plays the Vikings? That is almost straight out of a storybook. So it's going to be a lot of anticipation for that game as it gets closer.
Hey, Georgia Vike, give us your thoughts.
I think it's good that at least he knows what tunnel to walk through when he gets injured.
Wow.
I'm so glad he's gone. And I think he signed with New Orleans because due to the fact that he's going to play one game against the Vikings, and who knows who's going to play after that. I'm good riddance. Bye.
Get up to Geoff Nichols, get his opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, nothing in the NFL happens by coincidence. So Monday Night Football, primetime, open the season at home for the Vikings. Why not bring Adrian Peterson back for another run? I mean, I think it's actually a decent signing for the Saints. They'll be able to use him sporadically. Sean Payton will know how to use Peterson. They'll give him, 15 carries a game, strictly running between the tackles and allow him to kind of do his thing. I mean, as long as he's willing to accept that role, I mean, I think he'll be successful in it. But no matter what, he's not the back he was.
So what you're saying, if he's in the game, it's a run. He's not going to block for Breeze too well.
Hey, the Saints are pretty good at hiding things schematically. So I wouldn't say it is a run, but if it's not a run, he's definitely a decoy and not a blocker.
All right, from there, it's been announced today that the team will most likely not pick up Teddy Bridgewater's 50-year contract. Geoff, you want to explain to everybody what this exactly means?
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. I mean, this is something that I was kind of hooked into early in March when I wrote an article on VikFans about the potential for the Vikings to decline the fifth-year option. Really, this has no telling on whether Bridgewater will remain a Viking long-term or not. It just really gives the Vikings the most options moving forward. In the CBA, there is, I guess, any player who's in the last year of their contract, if they're in the PUP list or unable to perform coming out of training camp, their contract will toll over into the next season. So in Bridgewater's case, his $2 million cap hit will roll into the 2018 season. Financially, this would lock the Vikings in at $2 million versus a $12 million option, which is very advantageous for their sake. But it also would give them more flexibility if they decide to move on from Bridgewater as well, or franchise tag Sam Bradford, since they would be able to carry both quarterbacks into the 2018 season.
Excellent. So basically, most likely the team's going to put him on the PUP list all season long. Bridgewater will be the starting quarterback. Bradford's the quarterback. Bridgewater stays as a Viking technically, and the following year his contract will roll. Will be a 50-year contract.
Yes, as long as he stays on the POP list, his contract will roll. If not, and he surprises everyone and is able to perform, and God forbid a Bradford injury, and they need to force him into action. I mean, the guaranteed money that Bridgewater would receive on a short-term deal is still going to be probably less than the option as well.
Nice. You guys ready to talk the draft? You ready to go on the draft, guys?
Let's do it.
All right. We don't pick on the first because of the Bradford trade. So we picked 48th overall in the second round. Who thinks that Spielman's going to try to trade up to the first? And if so, who are we targeting? OBM, what's your thoughts?
I really don't think we're going to move up. I think this year, we have 8 picks, 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth. I think if anything, the draft is 4 rounds deep, they're saying. So that's great news for the Vikings. I could see us trading down in round 4 and trying to pick up a later 4 and an extra 5. But I really don't see us moving up this year. There would have to be someone to really take a plunge. And every year it happens. I mean, every single year someone does take a plunge. But I think we need to stand pat. And if anything, round 4, look to move down and pick up a couple of more picks. We've got a lot of needs, a lot of holes to fill, and we're not as deep as we were a couple years ago. So I would be looking to add picks in the later rounds if I was the Vikings, not move up.
Hey, Georgia Vike, you're Rick Spielman. What are you doing?
I'm staying put exactly where we are. To be honest with you, I think that the price to move up is going to be a little bit too much. But at the same time, I know there's also a lot of teams in the first round who are looking to move around a little bit and pick up other picks. So, right now, I think the cost might be too high. But then again, hey, man, I don't get paid to do this. So, he might have more knowledge than me, or maybe there's someone there that they've got highly coveted that they're willing to move some high picks for, or future picks, or maybe even a player in picks for.
Are you saying Rick Spielman might have more knowledge than you?
I'm definitely saying that he does not might. He does have more knowledge than I do.
All righty. Let's get our expert in. Geoff Nichols. What are the Vikings going to do?
Yeah, I mean, you can never say never. Anything's possible on draft day. Say there's a team sitting there at the end of the first round who really doesn't like what's available on the board, and they're willing to do, a second round for a first round swap and a fourth rounder, the early fourth rounder. I mean, it's great value. I mean, still would have to justify being able to move up for a particular player. I don't know if that player will be there for the Vikings, but there's really 2 tiers in this draft class. I mean, there's the top 10, which, I mean, there's not a ton of elite talents, but after you get to that 11th pick or so, 11 through 50, I mean, are all generally on that same tier or that same playing field. So you're going to definitely be able to get a good player at that 48th spot. And the depth in this draft, it really is special. So as you move into the 3rd and 4th rounds, you're definitely going to be able to get starting caliber players, and there's really no reason to give that up unless you really think you're going to get a star.
All right, you think they could possibly trade down then and try to accumulate more picks then, if it's so deep?
I mean, that's definitely always something that has to be taken into account. I mean, it takes 2 to tango when you move down the board as well. So you're going to have to be able to find a team that's willing to move up for a particular player, and you never know who's going to be available on the board when you get to 48. So, I mean, I think that's definitely in play. I think something else that might be taken into consideration is if the Vikings have a few players on the board they like around that 48 spot, you could possibly see them package a 3rd and a 4th to get back into the end of the 2nd round. It'll be a lot cheaper than getting into the back end of the 1st, but you're still going to be able to walk away with 2 starting caliber players pretty easily.
Nice. Mike Olson, you want to weigh in?
Well, I mean, what was the question? If you're Rick Spielman, I mean, I'm not Rick Spielman. None of us are. But if I'm Rick Spielman, I know that I got to be sitting there itching to get in the first round because that guy loves him some first round draft picks, right? So, but like everybody else, I don't think that we can afford to go and spend the collateral that it would take to get in the first round. So I think we stay pat. And like Geoff was alluding to, I think maybe if we're looking to move up a little bit, spend some of those extra picks that we have, maybe we'll be looking to get into the back end of the 2nd. But I'm thinking that day 1 is, or first round is going to be pretty boring for us Vike fans.
I'm going to agree with you on that part. Is Rick Spielman's job on the line if he has a bad draft this year when he missed the playoffs? Georgia Vike, your thoughts first.
I don't know. I'm not as smart as him, so I don't know, Bob. I thought I saw Geoff alluding that like he wanted to get back to something over there. Was there something you wanted to get back to, Geoff?
Yeah, just one little quick thing. I mean, the Vikings have always talked up the value in the fifth-year option that you get on players at the end of the first round. And maybe this is a better question for Spielman himself, but you have to start wondering after kind of getting burned on Sharif Floyd and now, ending up declining Teddy Bridgewater's option. Hey, what value really is there in that fifth-year option? Or are the Vikings kind of turning the other way on that one?
Looks like we lost Bob here. I don't know what the heck happened. Maybe he got sick of me answering. I don't know.
He's back.
You're all
We're
right.
good for Bob.
Hey, Bob. Welcome back, buddy.
Bob accidentally closed the tab. I know it.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know if that was me or I'm trying
Your
to type.
AOL collect.
Oh,
connection.
no. Yeah.
Yeah, my dial-up died there.
I think
My
that's
mother's making a house call. My mother's trying to make a house call.
We're sorry. The number you got.
It's Juno or Earthlink. I know it's one of the two, Bob.
His little AOL boot up disc broke.
Yeah.
He's still got 15 minutes left on that disc.
I have like 400 hours left.
Oh shit, honey, can you call the calling card company?
He's got 30 more of those CDs in his cabinet there, so we're good.
Yeah, he's been saving up since the 1990s.
Back to the draft. Geoff, do you honestly think, what do you think the possibilities of us, of Spielman going after like a Connolly or going after a Mixon in this draft? And how high would you take someone like that?
I mean, it's hard to say without actually seeing the board. I know they feel comfortable with Mixon. And I mean, Mixon's case is kind of unique in the sense that I think a lot of people from the outside, they don't view it as a consistent problem. It's not like he's going around hitting every woman in sight. I mean, you have to understand 18-year-olds screw up too. I mean, everyone screws up on a variety of different levels. Obviously, not everyone gets into an assault issue at age 18, but if you can say it's a secluded issue, I mean, I think he's definitely in play. But I think a lot of the big market teams definitely kind of get pushed in the other direction. I mean, think about him going to the Giants or the Jets. Think about that media parade that they would run around with Joe Mixon. It's going to have to be a small market team.
Well, didn't Zimmer meet with Mixon at the Combine? And then like 2 weeks ago, Spielman and Wills flew out to meet him in person?
Yeah, so they went down to the Oklahoma Pro Day, and both Zimmer and Spielman met with Mixon privately there. And the other thing the Vikings kind of have working in their favor is Polamalu, the new running back coach. He used to work at UCLA, and I think Mixon actually committed to UCLA before flipping to Oklahoma. So he's very familiar with Joe Mixon, the player, and the personality they recruited out of high school. And he actually ran Mixon's pro day. So that's just another kind of, I guess, drop in the bucket if you want to start kind of connecting the tea leaves a little bit. But I mean, it comes down to an ownership decision. I mean, if other players are on the board, maybe Spielman's sweating bullets and saying, hey, we can get out of this, draft another player. I don't have to worry about it. But if Mixon's the one that's left on the board and people in the room are clamming for him and ownership's okay with it, I mean, he has the talent. That's undeniable.
Yeah, and I think, all this stuff that's being fed out there, how much do we have to be thinking, well, they're feeding this line, pretty early in the process, because this stuff was leaking out, a week, 2 weeks ago. And, there's a lot of subterfuge and misdirection that goes on at this time of year. And yet, yes, there are some links to the player, but maybe that's just more that, to aid into, yes, we're going after this guy when you know that they might be going a totally different direction. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors.
Oops, sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Smoke and mirrors. That's that time of the year. Agree with them.
Yeah, and then the other thing I'll just kind of mention is if players have character concerns. I mean, there's going to be the select teams who are interested in them. And there's usually a lot of smoke around those players because teams are going to really be jockeying for position. I mean, you'll see the Bengals, they'll pick will come up at the beginning of the second round. Do they take Mixon there, or do they think he's going to possibly slip through the second? They can get him in the third. So you definitely want to have teams hesitate ahead of you and say, hey, I need to take Mixon at pick 41 because, hey, maybe if the Vikings aren't even interested, it just pushes the player down the board.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if Mixon's gone, let's say he wasn't our number one guy we wanted and he's gone, where we go from there? Are we going O-line or D-line, linebacker? Who's the other guys that we targeting with our first pick? Go to OBM first.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think there's a couple guys they might be targeting at that pick if they stand pat, which I think they will. I think the one guy that they definitely need to take a close look at is going to be Deion Dawkins, the guard out at Temple. He's a guy who I think, can come in and be a starter for them, if not this year and next year and maybe for years after that. Another guy that I like is Cunningham, the linebacker. We definitely have a need at linebacker, but to be honest with you, let's be honest here. I think the Vikings have some holes this year. We got to fill them. And that said, I think the mistake that Spielman's made the last couple of years, starting with, we can look back at previous drafts. I mean, they took Gerhardt when we had Adrian Peterson coming off a huge year. So the thing that I would really like to see is just draft the best available player. Let's take the guy that we've got the highest on our board rather than, take a flyer on a guy like Mixon. I would rather do that just, and if Mixon's your best player, yeah, take him. But I think we kind of need to get back to that way of drafting, especially right now with as many holes as we have, not having the depth that we've had. The Mutterland loss is, I think it's pretty big, but we definitely need to get some of that depth back. So you start doing that by taking the best available player on the board, in my opinion.
All right, Mike Olson.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry. I thought you had your hand up. You wanted to go next.
No, sorry. I was looking at some of the board here. No, but I think OBM's right, is that we do actually have quite a few holes here. I'm not as worried about the Munnerlin loss. I think Alexander's going to fill in nicely, but, who knows? He's a young guy, and so we'll see how he comes along. But we do have a lot of holes, and we have some depth problems that we need to address. So, and getting back to whether or not we should be moving around in this draft, I don't think that we should, because I think that we do have enough holes that we need to save the draft picks that we have. So that'd be my take.
Let's head up to our expert, Geoff Nichols.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think OBM made some good points. I think once the second round rolls around, the real judgment call the Vikings will have to make is how much offensive line talent's going to fall through to the third and the fourth rounds. Obviously, if the players that you're targeting are off the board, it's not much of a discussion. But say you have a Dan Feeney or a Deion Dawkins on the board, but you have Ethan Posick or a Pat Elflein in the same tier. Do you think one of those will fall through to the third and you can pick up a player at a different position in the second round? So that's really a judgment call on how the Vikings have their board stacked. But I think somewhere where you could really get a lot of value in a second's at safety. If you look at past safety classes, this year is particularly deep, but the talent's going to start running thin. The talent levels there is that they're going to go pretty early in the second round. So if you look at it, maybe an Obi Melanfanu, someone who has a ton of upside and fits of the Viking scheme as both a safety and a potential outside linebacker, there's value there. And the real wild card I'm thinking is Jabril Peppers. The Vikings front office does have their fans of Jabril Peppers. And if he were to fall through, he both gives you a linebacker safety, but he also gives you an elite punt and kick returner as well, which is pretty invaluable.
Okay. So from there, where do you think we are set for linebackers and defensive tackles? I mean, to me, our defense broke down halfway through the season last year, second half. And with Floyd out, it leaves a big hole. And you get Robinson, who's got another year or two left in him, and he's gone. So we got to fill that hole there. Greenway retiring hurts us at linebacker. I'm not super impressed with the other guys on the roster. If someone pops up, do we take them? Jeff?
I mean, you're always trying to build depth on the roster. I mean, if you look at the defense today, I guess if you just hypothesize and say the defense that we have right now is going to be what we open the season with, I don't think anyone's going to, start crying because it's still an above average unit. But I think that they're definitely going to want to add some depth and keep building that unit towards the future. Outside linebacker is one of those spots. Safety is one of those spots. And defensive tackle is really a crapshoot. It really depends what they think they're going to get out of Tom Johnson and how many snaps they're going to get out of Dayton Jones. If they think Dayton Jones is going to be able to step in and take that starter role and rotate with Stephen, maybe it's not as much of a need in the near term. And it's somewhere they could potentially look to next year's draft early. But if they think that Dayton Jones is going to take a limited snap count at the 3 technique, rotate in at defensive end if needed, then defensive tackle becomes more of a need.
All right. Georgia Vike. What are you thinking here?
I'm thinking just best player available all the time, every time, just to the fact that, you know what, every time it seems like we do that, we actually end up getting good players. Every time we stretch for something we're looking for that we need, we end up screwing it up. Doesn't matter the year or whatever. I just best player available. I don't care, regardless of position of need.
All right, so let's go back 2 years when we were 11-5 and we won the division. We're thinking the following year we'd be even better because Bridgewater is going to have more experience, obviously before his injury. That draft, Spielman drafted for the future, and I haven't seen one player basically from that draft really do anything. I mean, Treadwell got 1 catch last year. Alexander minimal playing time, and the rest. I mean, the best one guy probably played of all was like the 7th round pick, Javon Curse. He can't afford to do a draft like that this year. He's got to find some starters, because if not, we're going to miss the playoffs, and he's probably going to be gone. So what are we thinking? 3 starters, 2 starters? What are we looking for? OBM.
Well, I mean, I think again at this point we just got to stick with, taking the best available player on our board, and is it going to be 2 starters that we need, 3 starters? That's hard to say at this point because it just depends who slides, who doesn't slide, who's available, who isn't available, whether we trade down or not. I mean, call me kooky. I just have a feeling that we're going to trade down probably one of those 4th round picks, try to pick up a couple of extra guys. The interesting part of this draft is someone like Conley, who, we've all heard stories this week about him. Is, where do you take a flyer on a guy like that? I mean, that's going to be the interesting story to watch as that draft starts to progress into day 2. Is he still going to be there? Is he going to be there day 3? But again, I still think you stick with that formula of taking the best available player. If someone slides you, great. If they don't, I just like Georgia Vike alluded to. Let's not try to make a stretch pick where we're pulling a Chris Cook or some other guy that we think is going to come in and turn the team around because we have a need for it. So best player available, and hope someone that you really like, that you've got high on your board, slips down into the 40s and 50s, and you snag them.
Yeah, it's like Collins this year's Collins. Seems like every year is 1 or 2 guys that happens to. It's too bad. Even Peppers had the diluted urine sample test.
I don't think Collins or Conley's going to fall as far as Collins did last year. He's going to be drafted. So I think all this talk right now is he's too good of a talent to let go so far. I think teams will even take a flyer on this guy in the 4th or 5th round just to say, you know what, if it pans out, hey, we look like geniuses. If not, we're looking at a 4th, 5th round pick here. It's nothing too big.
Yeah, let's go to Geoff Nichols. Let him weigh on some of this.
Yeah, I mean, for the number of starters, to kind of agree that back to your original question that you want to get out of the draft class. I mean, obviously the cliche answer is you want all of them too. But I think step 1 is to draft 8 players that are going to be able to stick on your 53-man roster out of camp. Whether that means finding players who are going to be able to play a special teams role now and develop into starters in the future. I mean, those are considerations you need to make as you look at 5th, 6th, 7th round prospects. But you really want to hit on those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round picks. I mean, especially in a draft with this much depth, you should be able to get, starting caliber players rather earlier in their careers out of those rounds. So I think that really should be the goal or the mindset at hand. to kind of revert back to Georgia Vikes question or comments on Conley, I mean, it really just comes down to the amount of intel teams are able to gather in a 2-day period. From a politics standpoint, yeah, you look like a genius if it works out, but if it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't look like a 4th or 5th round pick. It looks like you just drafted a rapist on your team, which the media is going to pretty much fry you at the stake for. So, I mean, that is the flip side, because, I mean, even look at the Lyle Collins case. I mean, they even said that he wasn't a suspect in the murder, but just the fact that he had to go to the police station and even just give an interview or answer some questions on a potential murder case scared GMs and made them turn the other direction. So, I mean, he could, like I said, maybe a team is comfortable and they'll take a flyer in the 4th round on him. I mean, I could definitely see that, but I could also see him going completely undrafted as well.
Wow. You know, it almost reminds me way back in the 90s when the Vikings passed on Warren Sapp and picked up Derek Alexander because Warren Sapp smoked marijuana.
Save us the trouble, Bob. Save us the trouble.
I mean, that was a great move, passing on him to pick up Derek Alexander. At least the following year or a couple years later, we got the benefit of the doubt when everybody wanted to pass on Randy Moss, and he dropped to us at 21. So that was a smart move. So maybe lightning strikes twice. Everybody passed on Collins last year. Maybe Conley will be there for us this year.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, you can never know. Hey, I mean, every team's front office. I mean, 3/4 scouting, 1/4 FBI work.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably every team in the NFL probably has some kind of representative in Ohio State right now at the police station. What do you know?
That's exactly what it is. I mean, teams go so far, they'll call all the witnesses and everything in the case and try to get into contact with the victim, hear their side of the story. I mean, they'll go just as far, if not deeper than the police. They'll talk to your junior high teacher to see how you were in your math class, see if you showed any problems there. I mean, you got to look at it as the fact that these teams are going to be making multi-million-dollar investments in these players. The last thing they want is to leave some rock unturned.
Boy, I would be screwed. All right, so where do you guys want to go now? I mean, let's go look at the current roster right now. Who on the roster that hasn't played much is the next guy ready to step in and be a starter, that we don't have to worry about that position in this draft?
Alexander.
That would be my pick.
Since everyone chose Alexander, I'll go with Edmund Robinson. I think he could surprise people.
Of course, you got to go against the grain. Thanks, Geoff. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I just need to throw a little more food for thought into the mix.
All right, a lot of us know about Mackenzie Alexander. Geoff, fill us in on Robinson, please.
Yeah, no, Robinson's been backing up Anthony Barr, that strong side position, for two years. This will be his 3rd season if he makes the roster, obviously. He's an athletic freak. The Vikings got him in the later rounds of the draft, and he's somewhat of a developmental prospect. He earned his keep through special teams, but ultimately what it comes down to is he's been able to fill in meaningful situations as the linebacker core has been injured over the years. And I mean, you'd really hope for a player like that to be able to take that next step forward with the proper coaching.
Is he more of a run against the run linebacker, or can he go out in coverage as well?
A little bit of both. I mean, you haven't seen him in larger stints, and teams haven't been able to particularly target his weaknesses. But he has the athleticism and hip swivel to be able to play in coverage, but he also has the strength to play downhill as well.
So do you think like he'll make us not miss Greenway?
I mean, it's hard to say. The Vikings nickel package obviously isn't going to change, and you really only saw Greenway out there in the base package, which was a limited amount last season anyways. I think the biggest change you would see is if the Vikings can add a more athletic safety or just a very athletic outside linebacker who can play coverage. They might sit in the base defense a bit more.
All right. Let's go to the other side of the ball and go to OBM. Who ready to step up on offense that didn't play much last year?
On offense, well, I'll tell you what, I still think Adam Thielen has got more to prove to everyone. Just signed that new contract. I want to say he has a chip on his shoulder, but he seems like a kid who's got it together and wants to get better and improve. And I think the experience he got last year is going to transcend right over to this year, and he's, could be a 75, 80 catch, 9-10 touchdown type wide receiver yet. So I think he's a guy that still has potential, and I'm expecting great things from him this year.
All right, Georgia Vike, give your thoughts.
I don't have any thoughts, Bob. No, I'm good. I agree with everything that's being said here. There's so many question marks after last year, and kind of watching the players. I don't know much about a lot of these guys and who's got what to prove and all that. I'm just, hey man, I'm just hoping that some of these guys pan out from last year. So I'm gonna stay mum on that whole part.
All right, Mike Olson, you got anything to say? You want to add?
No, I'm pretty good here.
All righty. I'm going to show everyone has their chance to speak here. So, any late round surprises that we might be looking at? Someone who's not even on the radar? Mike, let you go first.
Well, actually, Bob, I was just looking at our chat feed here, and we have a statement here from NJ Vike, who, we all know he's had his own outlook on our own Spielman and how he's done in past drafts. So, his thoughts are is a little confidence that the 2017 draft class will be able to make any significant impact in their rookie seasons. But yeah, I mean, I think he makes a good point there in that, we were talking about, can we get 2 or 3 starters out of the draft? I don't think that's a realistic thing to be looking for either. So,
I hope so.
You might want to address some of his, 2 or 3 starters starting at the second round level. I mean, not even having a first round draft pick. I think that's a lofty ask there, even with the holes that we have.
All right, let's go to Geoff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a very reasonable question to ask. I think that this year they'll be going in with a little bit different of a mindset as well. I mean, going into the draft last year, they knew they needed to upgrade the wide receiver position, but you also have to remember that wide receiver is one of the toughest positions to learn, especially for larger red zone types who need to learn how to get separation at the NFL level. So drafting a Treadwell, I mean, although he definitely underperformed what many thought he was capable of doing, I don't think it would have been reasonable to expect him to step in as a day one starter and to put up 1,000 yards as a rookie either. As for Mackenzie Alexander, the idea was never to draft him as a starter. His role on the team was always to take over the nickelback position this year. So saying we got no production out of him, well, although that's disappointing, I don't think that was ever the goal as well. The one player that I don't think we talked about earlier was Kentrell Brothers. And last year he did make a significant impact on special teams, and that deserves to be recognized because football is a 3-phase game. And if you can win 2 of those phases, either offense or defense, and one being special teams, as you saw the Vikings do early last season, it can be a big difference in the game.
Nice. So let's quickly go over what our first caller. I always wanted to say that. has addressed. I will read it word for word, and then we'll discuss it. Because I'm sure my thoughts will be frowned upon, but I have very little confidence that the 2017 draft class will be able to make a significant impact in their rookie seasons. We just discussed that, and it's quite possible that it's true. At least enough to make the Vikings a viable playoff contender. In reviewing the Vikings draft since 2010, so I count 5, 6 if you think a 4 draft kick returner is worthy. Viking draft picks selected between rounds 2 and 7 that were legitimate contributors in their rookie seasons, and 2 of those were kickers. That's not good.
This is what I was saying about expecting to get 2 or 3 starters out of this draft. I think is a little bit unrealistic. We all want our draft picks to show up, but
well, from there, he's asking, what's the expectation of the Vikings when we even get 2, 3, or 4 significant in a good way? I don't know. OBM?
Sorry about that, Bob. You cut out. Say that again.
He's asking us the thoughts of how the Vikings can get 2, 3, or even 4 significant players between rounds 2 and 7?
Well, I think to get 2 or 3 guys who are going to start for us in those rounds is going to be very difficult. Number one, can it happen? Yeah, I think we can get some, guys to contribute, but actual starters that are just going to turn this team around. Yeah, it's tough to pull one of those out of your hat and looking at that draft position. Now that said, there is always a guy or two who slips down to the 50s, 60s, 70s that you look back a couple years later and they're a Pro Bowler, and they do contribute. So, but to get someone to contribute right away, I mean, we know how difficult it is to make that transition from the college game to the NFL. I mean, just ask Laquan Treadwell. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. Can it happen? But let's be honest here. I mean, if we can come out of this draft, if we have 8 picks and all of those guys make the roster, that's a success. That's that would be huge. That said, realistically, for us to just turn this around in one draft and have a couple of impact players where we are picking, can it happen? Yes. Is it likely? No. So the way that usually happens is you take a guy who's had some trouble, someone like Conley, and you roll the dice on him and he pans out, so seems like every year that does happen where a guy slides and you take a flyer on him. It might work out, might not, but whether Spielman's going to do that, I would be surprised. I mean, this is a guy who right now, this draft might be the biggest draft of his career. So I think he's got to be real careful how he proceeds this year. And he definitely needs to have a solid draft. I don't think he's going to sleep much Thursday night, I'll tell you that.
All right, so, Geoff, if Vikings don't take a Mixon at 48, let's say he's gone or they don't want him, and they go offensive line, who in rounds 2 and 3 could step in and maybe by midseason be a starter?
Just offensive lineman only, or do you mean any position?
Start off with offensive line only, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in the Vikings case, they did the appropriate thing, and they found 2 offensive tackles in free agency. So that's step one. It's always harder to start a rookie at offensive tackle just because there's so much more that goes on at that position. When you're trying to fill the right guard spot, I mean, Deion Dawkins could step in and start day one. Dan Feeney could step in and start day one. And I think you could probably make a viable case for even Ethan Poschick or Zach Elflein being able to step in, slide over from center to right guard as well, and be able to start from day one, just given what the Vikings currently have on the roster. Nothing against Jeremiah Searles, who is someone I was going to bring up as a player who could take a step this year, being able to compete for the right guard spot. But I mean, an offensive guard, it's easier to plug and play a starter because you need to worry about the guy who's in front of you and just understand basic pull concepts. So, I mean, there's a lot of hope there to be able to find a starter, but not to ramble here. Just to kind of get back to a question and the heart of it. I mean, you need to look at the Vikings 2015 class because it's a mix of players progressing from the previous year's class. So, for example, Mackenzie Alexander sliding in, but also finding some day one starters as well. I mean, in the 2015 class, you have Trey Wayans, who was drafted in the first round, didn't make an immediate impact, but started playing more in a rotational role near the end of the year. Then you had Eric Kendricks, who came in and was a day one starter without a doubt and has held down that position strongly. Danielle Hunter didn't play a ton as a rookie, but still made an impact in a rotational role. TJ Clemmings started his full rookie year at right tackle, for better or for worse. Michael Pruitt, he got snaps. Stephon Diggs, day one starter without a doubt, showed up during camp, was purely electric. So, I mean, it shows you can find starters. It just depends on if you are expecting to draft someone and say, hey, this is going to be Odell Beckham and you're going to plug and play him and he's going to be a superstar. That can never be the expectation. But a successful draft pick in my mind is someone who can either come in and start from day one like an Eric Kendricks or even rotate in as the year goes on, because some of these positions are not easy to transition from the NCAA to the NFL game. And I mean, fans put unexpected and unnecessary pressure on them, and it's honestly ludicrous. to expect some of these players just to be able to jump in and make that jump first round or not.
All right. Georgia Vike. Anything you want to add?
No, I'm just when you come to you talk about all these starters and how many starters you can get out of a draft. I look at even the draft has become such a crapshoot with a lot of these players. How many of the first rounders even pan out? You know, if you go across the board, what percentage of first and second rounders actually become viable starters?
It's 50-50. It really is.
Yeah. It's difficult to say I'm gonna get 4 guys out of 7 rounds. You're saying I'm gonna have, you know, better than 50% chance of coming out with, you know, half my draft being good starters. It's a hard thing to foreshadow or foresee, you know. So I don't know. I'm glad the job isn't mine. I'll say that.
No, and I mean, I think you're right on point with saying that. I mean, the NFL saying, or kind of what owners' expectations are, is it's expected you find starters in rounds 1 and 2. It's the expectation. I mean, it shouldn't be 50-50 in their mind. But where GMs really start making their money is in those 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, being able to pull starters out of those rounds when, you know, other teams are pulling depth players. If you're pulling starters, like teams like the Patriots or the Pittsburgh Steelers do, I mean, that's how you earn your keep in the league.
Ugh, Patriots.
Sorry for the hard feelings, Bob. Didn't mean to rub it in.
You know, there's another aspect to think about, you know, how many players we actually need to get out of this draft too. And I know this is supposed to be draft centric, but we have a lot of players that were injured last year, most notably, of course, on the offensive line, but at other positions too. And that's going to be the thing that I think is going to make or break our year this year. You know, how healthy can we stay this year? And I think we lose focus of just how impacted we were by the medical bug last year. So we get that ironed out and cut even 50% of the injuries that we had last year. And I think we're going to see us in a position where we need to have less guys stepping up right away.
I would hope so. I mean, we had the philosophy going into last year's draft, though, and apparently we drafted for depth, and we didn't have any depth. That's why we started off 5-0 and finished 8-8.
You look at depth, though, like you're saying, talking about depth and people getting injured. Look at Atlanta last year. Their offensive line is, I believe, the only offensive line to start, you know, all 16 games together as a unit. You see what happened in the Super Bowl when I'm spacing out the center's name, but you know he had the broken or fractured, you know, leg thing going on. They crumbled. But
Alex
it's, you know,
Mack.
yeah, right on. You know, thank you, sir. You know, but but you see what a cohesive unit can do. They're not the best unit out there, but they work well when these guys are playing every single game together.
Right. Which guy is going to drop the most in the draft other than Conley, most likely? GB, you think?
What's that kicker's name out of Boise State? No, I yeah, I'm just trying to think of anyone who would be drafted and what.
Who's the one that got in a bar fight?
That's right. Yeah, who's that guy who, you know, pulled out the pistol on the cop? I don't know. No, I don't know. I think Connolly's the obvious answer. So, you know, I'm gonna stick with that. And you know, from where he should be drafted, besides him, it'd probably be, you know, Mixon. To be honest with you, for a player who's got the talent, who's going to fall, he's not going to fall far, but where his talent lies and with the incident, I think he's gonna be the guy who falls the furthest.
All right, Geoff Nichols. What's the way in here with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always hard to say who's going to drop significantly because all it takes is one team to, you know, get comfort over a player and take them. But I think a surprise might be Dalvin Cook. I think he'll end up going somewhere in the 2nd round. I know through the pre-draft process, many saw him as a first-round pick, and the talent's there. He's a great running back, but I think teams have some question marks on his checkered past when it comes to even charges that were dropped, and even the people he surrounds himself with that could, you know, make some people shy away from him until the early mid-second round.
All right, OBM.
Well, that's easy. Myles Garrett. The Browns are absolutely going to screw that pick up and not take him. I mean, I can't be the only one thinking this. It's the Browns, people. It's the Browns.
The kid on the Browns, no, I just heard a real funny story from someone who's in the league the other day, and he's like, people in the league are literally cheering for the Browns to get a pick right. Just from an ownership stake. I mean, think about it. The Browns come into your stadium. That's not a sellout. It's not an easy sell. Teams are literally rooting for their competitiveness to at least put people's butts in seats.
Wow. That's
it's
ugly.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I still remember reading the story with the Browns when they took Johnny Football that year, and the owner, they interviewed him, and he said, "Yeah, I was walking the stadium. There's this homeless guy out there. I asked him who we should take, and he said Johnny Football." And dude, I'll tell you what, when you're asking homeless dudes who you should take with the first pick, you've got some scouting issues.
Hey, they had to cut budget somewhere.
Have the Browns gone more than 3 years without drafting a quarterback?
The most recent one they've drafted, well, last year they drafted Kessler, I guess, in the mid rounds. But I mean, if they're trying to play the crapshoot, just keep drafting them until you find one. But then again, they're cursed. So,
dude, someone should Google the Browns starting quarterbacks since 2000, who's all started for them, and I'll tell you what, not one of them should have been. I mean, literally. I mean, Tim Couch, you could maybe argue, yeah, he should have been in the NFL a couple of years. He wouldn't have had that shoulder issue. But the rest of those guys should all be cleaning OBM's pool right now. Every one of them.
There it is. Yes. The annual pool reference.
There it is. Start cleaning, boys.
Well, if you had all those guys cleaning your pool, the thing better be freaking spotless.
All right, well, I would disagree with that. I mean, half of them would be doing cocaine in the backyard, and the other half.
Wow.
You can't prove that, dude. You cannot prove that.
And then you probably have OBM peeing.
Probable cause when so kind of walks behind the bushes and comes back tripping into the bottom of the pool.
Wow.
Who was the surprise guy this year that no one's really talking about that is going to make a team and really surprise everybody? Is there anybody out there? Geoff,
I really like James Conner, the running back from Pittsburgh. I think he's a guy the Vikings should be targeting in 5th, 6th round, because we do have a need at running back. And he's a guy who's overcome some issues, some health issues. And, he's got a lot of potential before he ran into those. He's a guy who's obviously not going to be taken in the first 4 rounds, I don't think. But he's a guy that could, slip down a little bit and the Vikings could snag him. And, again, I think the potential is there if he's healthy. And, he could surprise some people, turn some heads.
All right.
I'm hoping towards the end of the draft. I'm hoping towards the end of the draft. I take a flyer on him, Stacey Coley out of Miami. I don't know what it is about him. I want him in the worst way in the Vikings uniform. I don't know if he's got character issues or is there something going on there, but his talent the last few years watching him in college, he was pretty damn good. So I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base. Maybe I'm just being a homer down in the Southeast or something like that. But I think the kid's pretty damn good. I'll give it back to you, Geoff, because you know a little bit more about this stuff than I do.
Yeah, no, just to refer back to Obi Adams' draft choice. I mean, I'll be cheering for Connor wherever he goes. I mean, the guy lived through cancer, is ready to make an impact now, and just seeing how the city of Pittsburgh and that school rallied behind him. I mean, I really hope he can make it in the NFL. First, for a fun one, there's this guy named Bob Steele that I heard that still has some draft eligibility left. I just want to see him get out there and take a hit.
Yeah.
I'm just more curious to see if he can get up after taking a whooping. But on a more serious note,
it'd be the other way around. I'm 6'3", 260, middle linebacker. I'll kill somebody.
I'll put the money.
As long as I
break
can,
a hip.
As long as you give me some tape of you sifting through garbage to the ball carrier, I'll enjoy that.
I put money on Trey Wayne's knocking Bob out. Okay.
As long as no one hits him low, I think he'll live. But on a more serious note, someone that I've kind of been watching closely throughout the process is Jeremy Cutler, a cornerback out of Middle Tennessee. I caught on to him when Middle Tennessee played Alabama. I just watched that game live, and he just really stuck out on tape. He's a long cornerback who has some speed, and he's aggressive. He goes and tries to get the ball whenever he can. He would really fit well in a Seattle cover one type system where he can play on the outside and kind of do his thing. He'll need some time to develop, but I mean, just to put it in perspective, if you looked at a lot of the media sites, he was considered very deep on the undrafted free agency list when I started watching more tape on him, and now many are saying he's going to go in the 5th round or so. So I think he can continue to rise once making it in the NFL.
I'll tell you, the guy I want, not the draft, but I want him on the Vikings uniform, is Weston Steelhammer. The name alone.
Draft him for marketing purposes only.
Oh, absolutely. I'll buy that shirt.
He definitely has a career in the adult film industry.
That's his backup. I wonder if that came up in the team investigations.
Yeah. The interview.
Possible male stripper.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, he seems like the type of guy to drive a 76 Corvette and show it to his friends. Yeah.
Got to get the lift kit too. Yeah, you can't forget the lift kit.
Man, that guy's name alone makes me want him to be a Viking. Steelhammer. It rocks.
Forced fumble by Steelhammer.
Yeah.
Just be thankful he's not in Conley's position right now, because he'd be guilty as charged right off the bat.
He's hung like a horse.
Wow.
Whoa.
Let's got off topic real quick.
Oh boy. Yikes.
All right,
and
guys.
OBM is saying yikes. It just got pretty raunchy.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, maybe help clean your pool.
He's definitely not allowed in the backyard.
Not with the kids around, at least.
Absolutely. Or the wife.
Hide your kids. Hide your wife. Hide your husband, because Steelhammer's in.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yowza.
All right, guys. Who is your ideal pick for the Vikings? Who do you want? Anybody? It doesn't make
Mixon.
You want Mixon?
Yes.
All right, OBM.
I definitely don't want Mixon. I would say our ideal pick would be.
Nope. Who do you want?
Who do I want?
Put your Rick Spielman hat
Myles
on.
Garrett. Myles Garrett. I'll take Myles Garrett right now.
All right, let me ask the question. Realistically, who do you?
Well, the Browns are picking first, and if we trade up to 2, we could still get them bound. Just saying. All right, no, realistically.
OBM's trying to justify trading down earlier, but now we're moving up to 2.
I'm just saying that Garrett can definitely clean my pool. All right. That guy is definitely allowed in the backyard. He's not going to steal anything or break anything. So we're good. No, the guy that I would like to see in a Vikings uniform, that he's probably not going to be there, but someone like Charles Harris, the D end out of Missouri. I think he's an impact player. He's someone that could definitely help out in the future, and someone who stands out to me. So I like Harris.
Mike Olson.
Yeah, for me, I guess it's got to be offensive line, somewhere around there. With everything that's gone on with this team for the last few years, it reminds me of being, back in the days when we could not find a cornerback to save our lives. I mean, seriously, back then we were converting wide receivers to cornerbacks. But anyways,
Joe Webb.
or
Ramus McDonald.
No, it was another guy. I can't even recall.
Wasn't it Matthew Hatchett at first? Didn't they try doing that with him initially?
I don't know. But anyways, for me, my money's got to be spent on the offensive line if I really got to go for somebody. So one of the guards or tackles, Lamp, Robinson, one of those guys, somebody. I mean, I just can't get enough offensive line for this team right now. It's just been too much of an Achilles heel for us, and I just want to know that it's a problem solved.
Geoff Nichols.
Now we know Mike likes him big.
Wow.
Weston Steelhammer. Line 1.
Back on topic, guys, now that I have to kind of try to reel you all back in. But realistically, I mean...
Say reel it back in.
I have no words for you. I think there's going to be a run on offensive line talent at the end of the first round, and it'll really be up to the Vikings to see if they want to go get their guy. But I think a realistic target and someone who may drop is either Obi Melanfanu or Jabril Peppers. I think both of those guys would look good in a Vikings uniform. If you had to do a more fun pick, I'd go with Jabril Peppers because I know Zimmer would have some fun packages installed for him. That could be fun.
Too easy.
Put a 4-4 guy at linebacker and tell Zimmer to do whatever you want with him. I mean,
that would be fun. For me, I'm going to agree with Mike Olson. Offensive lineman, Lamp would be the dream, but he's probably not going to be there when we pick unless we trade up for him. Some of the guys
probably not.
Yeah, like Deion Dawkins could probably step in from day one, like I think Geoff alluded to earlier. Even Dorian Johnson,
another good name.
Posich, Elfline. Maybe like even the fourth round. I know a lot of people don't really like the guy, but some do, some don't. Because I've always liked the kid from West Virginia, Orlowski. He's just a big little block. Team captain. I like him as a center.
Yeah, another name to kind of watch at the guard position in the later rounds is Damian Mama out of USC. I mean, he has the potential to develop into a starting guard, but I'm just waiting for the time you're watching a broadcast on Fox and he just pancakes a guy and they're going to ask, who's your mama?
There you go.
I'm just
hammer your mama.
Wasn't he 400 pounds when we started in college?
He was. He had significant weight problems, and now that he lost some weight, he actually improved as a player, which, no doubt, wow, you can actually have a little more agility, you can pull a little better. But he has that wide base you look for. And the heavy hands you really want in a guard to be able to, punch for the defensive ends and defensive tackles back.
He's at what, about 330 now?
330, 340, somewhere in that range. I mean, those big guys, their weights vary a little bit. Depends how big of a lunch you have.
Yeah. How big of the cow?
Yeah.
Alrighty. I think OBM.
I think we got one more question.
OBM, fire away.
Tight end, another position we're going to try to avoid all jokes for a moment. Who do you see us taking? Because I think we're definitely going to be taking one. Do you see someone? Do you have someone in mind?
You want Butt?
I want Butt.
Which tight end do you think we'll grab?
But
which tight end is going to slide to us and be the steal of the draft? The SOD.
I think the guy out of Iowa, George Kittle, has a lot of potential. Just due to his versatility, he's a good blocker and he can run the seam well. He's kind of a chess piece you can move around at tight end. I think he has a good chance of outperforming his draft range in the fourth round.
I like the kid from Clemson. I know
Leggett.
Yeah, I watched him in that championship game, and kid had glue on his hands. Everything stuck to him. It was nice to see. He's probably fourth, maybe fifth rounder.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of dropped off throughout the draft process. I think a lot of teams are concerned with Clemson's offense. The way they run their offense is it's strictly a zone read team where the sideline's going to help facilitate where the ball is going to go. So, I mean, in Leggett's standpoint, he kind of knows when the ball's coming to him, which is a big help. And in the NFL, you're not going to have that. So I think some of his production was probably inflated, but he definitely has some of the athletic traits you look for. So probably more of a developmental guy, but something definitely no one you'd be ashamed of taking.
All right, I think that's going to be wrapping it up here. You guys, anything you want to add? Anybody?
No, only that this is an exciting time of the year and just sit back and enjoy it. I mean, too many people get stressed out about the team in the draft and have some pretty hot, cold reactions to the pick. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
All righty. Well, everybody at home listening, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week with a wrap-up show after the draft. We'll see how the Vikings did. Thank you very much for everybody for joining me. Have a great night.